My name's Dave DeBow, founder of MoneyPartnerFormula.com, and this show is built for everyday real estate investors who are actively doing deals and looking to scale using other people's money. So if you're an active real estate investor and you want to get featured on this show to talk about your own real estate and capital raising experiences, then just go to daveinterviewyou.com. Now let's get rolling with this episode, and remember to subscribe for daily interview content.
All right, guys, it's Bryce Kaminsky here with Dave Dubow. And tonight, if you've ever been wondering, how do I get started? Is it even worth getting started? Is it too difficult? Maybe I'll just stay out of real estate. Tonight on the show, we've got Aisha Leon, and she says, get started as early as you can. Aisha, welcome to the call. How are you tonight?
Oh, I am very well, Bryce. Thank you so much for having me on the show. It's such a wonderful opportunity to just chat about this new passion of mine.
Yeah, and
So,
it's a new passion. So how long, when did you get started in real estate? Tell people that
well,
story.
I've always been interested in real estate. I've read some of the books, and to be honest, before I even had the passion for real estate, I was interested in just having my own business and starting and having some kind of an entrepreneurial footprint. So then when things, I started to look into real estate, I read some books, I was listening to podcasts, but it took me sort of a little bit of a while to jump in and take that step.
Mhm.
I know we call it analysis paralysis. It was just a lot of, do I know enough to take that step? So once I got started, recently actually, I really took the first step in purchasing an investment property that was
Mhm.
not just my home or house hacking, which is another term that I've become familiar with. That was last year, November.
So that's is that a single family, a duplex,
Oh,
triplex?
it was a duplex. It was a duplex, and what was very empowering about it is this was done with a single family income. So I was able to purchase that. It's a duplex. It's fully rented. Yeah, so it's been quite an experience, and it's really lit an enthusiasm for the business.
Right. And so you're a brand new landlord. Welcome to being a landlord. How's that going so far?
Well, I knock on wood. So far, it's been been a pretty positive experience. I really try to be responsive to my tenants. Of course, managing expectations with time and what is expected with resources and so on. But I so far it's been a very positive experience. I inherited one tenant,
Hmm.
and even if that one tenant actually, and it is the rent is currently below market, but it's a pretty solid tenant, very consistent. And that's one of the things I've learned. It's what are some of the things that you're willing to give up? What are some of the compromises you're willing to make? So for me, it's a pretty consistent tenant. They pay well. They communicate whenever they need something, not overly demanding. So it's been a very positive experience on both sides.
Yeah, a tenancy can be challenging. Um, when you had mentioned earlier, you were talking about you were looking, you always had this entrepreneurial kind of endeavor. Before real estate, was there anything you were thinking, oh, I'm going to XYZ? What was it that, you were looking at before real estate, perhaps?
Well, I've looked at I looked at owning a tutoring franchise. I was actually
Hmm.
pretty close to taking that leap. And then I decided mainly I had to reassess my goals. What is my objective? And financial and time freedom was very important. So, one of the reasons that I decided not to move forward with that particular venture was because it required a certain amount of time
Yeah.
that you were not able to delegate. So with that, I thought it didn't really suit my needs. So being very clear about what it is what my main overall objective was, uh, helped me sort of decide, okay, this is not quite the venture for me, because I do need that time freedom. I do need that financial freedom and that ability to do my work anywhere in the
Mm-hmm.
world, as traveling is my passion. So so I looked into owning a tutoring franchise because I do have a long history in education, and it's also something I'm passionate about. So then I looked actually doing before the pandemic, we did have this. I looked at doing click and collect delivery. So
Mm-hmm.
I would, a lot of people would do click and collect, and they would but they still didn't have the time to collect the groceries. So I looked at that business venture, and that was interesting. But then I moved here to Nova Scotia from Ontario, and so then I reevaluated whether or not that was something that I wanted to continue doing, and here I am in real estate. And for sure, I'm certain that is something that I want to continue doing, and just continuing partnering with
Yeah,
others.
we had another ex-Ontario person who moved from Ontario to Nova Scotia. Um, him for the escape from Ontario. And on your side, would 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 you be doing real estate if you were still in Ontario?
That's an interesting question. I would, because I know that the market is volatile, or some may argue there's not as many opportunities, but I think if you evaluate some parts, some pockets, there are some opportunities, there are some markets, and being strategic with how you find the deals. For example, you can go off market, you can go off
Mm-hmm.
Kijiji, and I like to look at there's certain pockets, say in Windsor, St. Thomas area, so where you see up and coming emerging economic activity, increase in population. Ontario, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
most parts of Ontario
Yeah,
are
everywhere.
pretty populous, and it's always going to draw new immigrants. And as our immigration policies change, there's always going to be a need for housing.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't really scare me to look at the Ontario market, but it does mean that you have to be very strategic about it. And there are certain markets that you have to, and certain variables that you have to consider a little closer than perhaps in other markets.
Mm-hmm. So you're into your first deal. You had mentioned house hacking. Is that something you looked into or have done in the past?
Yes. So actually, I did. It wasn't with a purchase property. It was a rental property that I rented, and I agreed with the landlord at the time. And that was actually one of the ways that I realized, oh my goodness, this could be done. Is that I was renting sort of a townhouse, and then I spoke to the landlord, and he was completely flexible with me having renting the other part of it, which was the basement, which it was a basement with a full bathroom and so on. So I did that. And then I also had some international students. So at the end of it, my rent was fully paid just by having rent in the basement and having some international students. So that really helped me, particularly when I was very new to Nova Scotia and I had just moved, and going through that transition and that settlement process. So having that extra income really helped. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so now that you've kind of established yourself and you've moved from Ontario to Nova Scotia, what is the day-to-day, your involvement in the real estate market now? I remember before we were talking, you were speaking at a networking event recently.
Yeah, so I do a lot of meetups as well. I would say not as many as I wished I could do, because I do
Mm-hmm.
have two little ones in hockey, so that. But I do meetups. I listen to a lot of podcasts. So when I wake up in the morning and I'm getting ready for work, I have my podcast on, or I have my audiobooks that I read to help me with that process. So I'm always engaging with the learning, and I do enjoy it very much. And more than that, I find there's a lot of, once you are able to collect that information, there's ways that you can really apply it. So I find in real estate, a lot of the learning could be very quickly applied, which
Mhm.
is different for, say, even in my other experiences with learning. So you can really see the application, you could really assess very quickly how it's working. Doesn't mean necessarily that it always works the way it's supposed to, but you get quick feedback as you go through the process, as you're learning as well. So I really enjoy that part of real estate. And yeah, so I do that. And yeah,
So as a mother, how old are the kids now? What
I
type of
have an
schedule
11
is
year
it?
old and a 12-year-old.
Okay, so they're kind of taking care of themselves, but they are still 11 and 12. So how do you find time for the people listening at home that maybe are thinking about, dipping their toes into real estate, but they're like, oh, I've got life and work and kids and this and hockey. Hockey in itself is a job. So how do you manage that? How do you balance that so that you can give a little bit of a pro tip to those people that might be in the same situation?
Absolutely make the time. And I think for me, it's really not being so hard on yourself that you don't have, say, 5 or 6 hours in a day to work on it. Uh, for the morning, for instance, I could wake up in the morning. I wake up at 5. I'd say, okay, this morning I'm going to identify 2 properties, and maybe that's all I do. Or I'm going to email my agents in some of the markets that I'm working in and just see what's on the market. Look at that. When I come home later, then I enter my
Then the day
numbers.
goes, the whole day goes, and you come back.
Yeah,
Maybe they're going to
right.
bed
So
by
then I
now.
go to
Yeah.
work. I go to work and I do all the mothering and the work stuff, and then I come home and then I start to enter my numbers. Then I look at that. I may start to do my analysis, but sometimes by the time you enter your numbers, and if you're supposed to enter all the variables and do all these calculations, you may not actually go through a full analysis for the night. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I start to. So really, it's finding little pockets of times. When I'm at a practice, I will be doing my calculations. If it's a game with my boys, then I put everything away. That is
Hmm.
my promise to myself. So I'm very present for the games. I'm looking, I'm cheering. But if it's a practice, then I'm doing my calculations and I'm looking up occasionally. And I think we have an understanding around that. So and I
Yeah,
try
mom's
to
got to
include
practice
my
too, right?
right. So and I try to include my boys in what I'm doing as much as I can for their age group. Just tell them what's happening, tell them what I'm doing. So at least just to get some interest, engage them a bit.
Okay, and
Yeah.
so you mentioned working in multiple markets. Which markets? Why? What would be? I mean, you don't have to tip off your competition, right? They're going to be like, "Oh, this market," and they're going to start searching it up. But I guess for the people at home, why multiple markets in Nova Scotia? I have a feeling I know what the answer is, but I want to hear why you or someone on the ground is working in multiple markets out there.
In Nova Scotia,
Mm,
well, Nova Scotia is geographically very diverse, and by that I mean different pockets have uh, different population. The growth is very different. Uh, the need for housing is very different. So that's one thing. But I'm not just in Nova Scotia. I also look in Ontario, and I look in the Caribbean island, which I'm from, which is St. Lucia. So I'm looking at these markets as well. Um, I like multiple markets because I have an understanding of the Ontario market, and the markets that I'm in are markets that I am fully sort of, I would say that I'm versed in because I've lived there.
hmm.
So for me, I'm comfortable with that. For a more experienced, say a very experienced investor, they may make investments and never even step foot on the ground. For me, I need to be able to see the property. I need to be able to have a fair understanding of the environment, what's going on around, what is the neighborhood like, what is the community like, what amenities are nearby. So all these things that I would look at once I'm doing my analysis. So For me, the markets that I'm in is markets that I'm familiar with, markets that I've lived. So I have some ground level information that's probably a little bit more nuanced that can be captured and that cannot be fully captured in numbers, but
Hmm.
it gives you sort of a feel for the community and the neighborhood.
Yeah, don't buy on this block. Not a good block. This is a good block. So, people who are starting, you've got the family, you're paying for hockey, there's finances are what they are today in this economy. How are you financing these deals? How do you plan to get into the next one? It's a big thing for people getting started. They're like, I can't afford a property. So how
Partner,
are you partnering with, what's your
partner,
plan for
partner,
that?
partner. Uh, my first duplex I did get on my own, but for scalability, just to scale the business, and just because since I've really gotten into real estate, I have a very deep desire to get others in. And I
Mhm.
think a lot of the concerns that I've had, a lot of the fears, a lot of what kept me from taking that step, a lot of other people have the same concerns. And I think once we start to really sort of uncover what it is, like it's not a big mystery. It is not a secret sauce necessarily. It is research, it is some analysis. It does take time. And I think that's why partnership works as well. Aside from the capital investments and that the partnership works
Mhm.
because one person, everybody brings something to the table that is beyond. And I'm particularly interested in these partnerships as well. Though there are some people who are looking to get into the business but they don't have the time, and that's where I come in. I can bring in that time, maybe. So the partnerships could work on so many different levels, and to me I think that is my biggest attraction to real estate, is because it's something that you can do alone, absolutely, but it is far more interesting, far you can scale far better, you can go further, and it's one of those things, it's almost like a social entrepreneurial venture because you're making money. That's important. I am not
Mhm.
afraid to say that making money is an objective, but then you help others make money, and there are very few ventures where I feel that I can truly get involved and help others make money while I'm making money. So I yeah, that financing the deals, it's
Mhm.
partnering.
So we talked a little bit where you came from, what you're doing now. What does next year, what does the year after look like? What are your goals? What are you trying to get? Where are you trying to get in the next couple of years? What's your big plan?
Well, I I continue to be interested in the smaller multifamily units. So I still like triplex and duplexes, fourplexes. I look at that, and I'm also looking at some of the bigger units, at 20 units or more. Really just scaling the business, bringing in some VAs or some assistants to help with some of the workload and some of to delegate some of the work in the
Hmm.
business. So doing that, finding some good quality partners to work with. Prefer, it would be great if it's partners for multiple deals where we develop some kind of an understanding of what each of us want from the
Hmm.
partnership, and then we can continue to work together. For that, in the next, by the end of this year, actually, which I don't have a lot of time or to
Yeah,
think
we're
about,
October 18th today is the
right?
date, right?
Right. It's really to close on my next acquisition and to move on to the next, because as far as I have a goal for 5 years that I should be able to a financial freedom, right? Which means that, and financial freedom for me, which means that I can fully fund and sustain my life and my lifestyle, and that means my kids and all of that, and my
Hmm.
vacations,
And
um,
hockey.
with cash flow. So really, that is the ultimate goal. It doesn't mean that necessarily I need to quit my job, because, like I said, I do enjoy what I do, but I also think that that is the goal in 5 years, to have that level of financial freedom, that I have that option, and to help
Yeah,
others have that option.
definitely. So as we get towards the end here of the interview, what is one thing, if someone was starting out, what's one piece of advice that you would give to them?
There is a lot of free information out there. Start with that. You will need a mentor. I think that is vital. Vet your mentor, but before you get to that point, there is some free information. Get some information. Because as you're vetting your mentor, you need to understand what you're vetting. So
Mm-hmm.
having some preliminary information for yourself, because it's all out there. It's free. It's on the internet. It's in books, it's in audiobooks, it's in podcasts like this one
Mm-hmm.
and others. So get some information, get started, and then connect with individuals who are currently on the journey of a bit further than you.
Yeah, definitely. So time flies when you're having fun. How can people find you on the social medias if they're trying to find you, want to connect with you, learn more about your journey? How can they find you?
Well, I'm on Instagram, Vuku Investments. Yep. So I'm on Instagram. I can be found on Vuku Investments, but I can also be found on LinkedIn, Aisha Leon.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, well, until next time, guys, this is Bryce Kaminsky for Dave Duveau, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Hey there, I really hope you enjoyed that episode. And as always, if you want to listen to more daily interview content, make sure you subscribe. And if you're an active real estate investor and you're doing deals and you'd like to get featured on this show, then just head over to daveinterviewyou.com. Now at moneypartnerformula.com, we help real estate investors to create a process for predictably getting capital so they can do more deals without relying on hard money lenders or the banks. We do this by building them a private capital marketing system. Now, if you want help turning yourself into a big money capital attraction machine, then book a call with our team to see how we can help. Just visit moneypartnerformula.com to find out more. All right, take care, and we'll see you on the next interview.